rather be in Olympia with KGY.
Well, good evening. KGY News time is 5:43. Let's get into our question of the day at facebook.com/AM1240KGY, or you can drop us a line with your thoughts through the email studio@kgyradio.com. And today's question of the day, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a problem will our national debt be in 10 years? Brittni Jean?
Major.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And to help elaborate on this, we welcome to the phone lines our political correspondent, John M. Hansen. How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Oh, really good. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood.
It sure is.
It's not snowing right now, so it's actually beautiful.
Yeah, no kidding.
I know. I've had enough of snow this winter.
Yeah.
No kidding. We had a light dusting the last couple of days. Was it kind of bad around your house, or was it all right?
No, we didn't really get much of it at all. There was just like a tiny bit this morning. It didn't look that bad at all. It looked just like frost.
I pretty much just went ice skating.
Did you? Nice.
Oh, nice.
It was slick out this morning.
It's true. That's true. It was a cold one.
Well, I was there at, 4 a.m., so it was slick.
Yes. It's still unthawed.
Right?
Yeah. John, what's your thoughts on this whole national debt thing? Because we look at the national debt clock, which there's a link to at our Facebook page, facebook.com/AM1240KGY. This number is going up a lot.
Yeah, it really is, and I wish more people were aware of this website because it's really important information, and it's really important to me. And as you know, I post it on Facebook all the time, and I try to make people aware of it. And I think it does need to be made more aware of because it's grown substantially in the last 12 years. Like I was just looking at it earlier, and by the way, just so you can know what the website is, you can go onto 1240KGY and you'll see a link to the website, but it's usdebtclock.org, and it's really cool. You can see what's going on now with our federal government's finances, the amount of revenue we're taking in, and where the debt's at. And you can even go back in time and see where it was back in time. And there's also a projection. There's also projections by the CBO and other agencies that project where that debt will go in the future. And so it's pretty interesting to look at the trends. It's also concerning because, like if you go back in time, like say to the year 2000, just before Bush took office, the U.S. national debt was at about $5 trillion. I guess almost $6 trillion. But it was a different trend. The U.S. national debt was actually going down, so we were actually paying it off. Mm-hmm. And if you look at it today, 12 years later, it's almost $16 trillion.
It's insane.
Yeah, actually, right now I've got it up on the old internet machine here. We're at 15.5 trillion right now, rounding up. But I mean that's going up by $100,000 or so, like every other second. It's interesting. I'm glad you bring this up too, usdebtclock.org, because it's one thing to talk about that kind of a number, but I think it's another thing to have a visual on that and see that number going up and see what that's all is laid out. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I actually did some calculations just today. I was just out of curiosity. I wanted to time it and see how long it took for it to go up $1 million. And it took 27 seconds for the U.S. national debt to go up $1 million.
That's it?
That's all?
Yeah, 27 seconds. And so then if you do the math from there, that means that every 7.5 hours, it goes up $1 billion every 7.5 hours.
I just want to know what in the world is costing us so much money.
Well, yeah, that's a great question, and more people need to look into it. But it's a lot of different things.
I mean, I understand we're in and we have had all of these wars and, we're helping other people and things like that. But at what point are we as Americans going to go, hey, why don't we stop helping others and start helping ourselves and get us out of this just downfall? We're just sliding downwards into who knows what.
Well, what's interesting too is, and maybe something that's attributing to this massive debt number, is the fact that we're not building anything anymore. We're not doing anything. We're buying a lot of goods where we used to be the ones producing those goods. You know what I mean?
They've shipped it all out because it's cheaper to have them made in a sweat factory in China or Thailand or somewhere. It's cheaper to do it there, and I understand that we want our costs to be down and we want cheap things here in America, but
to an extent, we got to work.
We got to work. We are so lazy. Americans are so lazy these days.
Well, within the last 20, 30
Yeah.
years, I think this has kind of come about to where we are now, obviously, but...
It's
Yeah.
and we don't have to.
I would say. Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt. Go
No, you're
ahead.
fine.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Oh, I would say the other problem too is the problem that we have with the Federal Reserve. They're the central bank that's loaning our federal government money, and we're going into debt to them. So they print off money, they create more money, and then they give it to the federal government, and the federal government has to pay it back. So we're also in debt to them.
So there's a
We
lot
need
of
to
debt.
stop doing that. They're teaching Americans the wrong way to do things.
Yeah,
no wonder there's a
that's
$30
counterfeiting.
overdraft charge for your 5 cents overdrawn.
Right. We know.
So, yeah.
We know that's wrong, and it's sad that it's going on at this level. And again, like the national debt and the problems with the Federal Reserve is something that really needs to be talked about more. And I mean, there's the social issues are important, but really, like we can't fix a lot of these issues unless we have a sound economy and a good dollar. And we really need to focus on home and we keep going into debt, and look at who's paying for it. The poor and the middle class are going to be paying for it because our dollar is getting weakened. Because the Federal Reserve prints off more money. We get into more debt. They print off more money. It weakens our dollar. It makes prices more expensive for us, and it just hurts the economy.
It's hurting everything.
Right. Now, aside from the Federal Reserve as a totally separate issue, though, monies need to be spent in certain areas in order to grow funds. You can't sit on a pile of money and hope that it gets better one day because things might turn around. In a certain extent, you got to spend money in certain areas to help grow the overall thing that you're trying to do.
We need to spend it in the right way, though, and stop spending it on other things. They need to stop making money just so we can have money. We need to sit down and make a budget out and
Exactly.
I mean, we keep going around and around, even right here in the heart of Olympia. How long have we even gotten a budget out of our Senate and the House?
It's taken
I mean,
a while.
they had a special session before the actual session, and they couldn't come up with a budget because we're focusing on should we have marijuana? Should we regulate sugar? Should all these things? It's
All
like
these other sidebar issues.
stop focusing on what there is. We're fine. If they want to be fat, if they want to be skinny, let them do what they want to do. Let's focus on a budget and get down to the heart of America and fix it.
And that comes down to the politics of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean,
and that's the basic understanding. I mean, we have that in our own lives as our in our own families. We try to each month take in more than we're spending. It's just a simple thing for us, but yet our government just can't seem to do it. I mean, this last year alone, and I wish I should have printed off the numbers, but I think federal spending last year was about $3.1 trillion,
Oh my
or close to that.
gosh.
And the revenue that we took in was only about $2 trillion. And so just last year alone, the Federal Reserve printed $1 trillion to give to our federal government to meet the spending. And then of course it weakens the dollar, and we all get hurt because of it. And we have to hold them all responsible. And like I said before, people are really tired of these partisan politics. Both sides not wanting to compromise, and so nothing gets done.
right.
And the budget we just continually have these budget problems, and the poor and the middle class are the ones that continue to pay for it because there's a lot of problems with our federal government right now, and they're not getting it done.
To
I
an
agree.
extent, though, that goes back to spend money to make money, though, because if you just stop printing, if you just sit on this pile that we don't have, then it's not going to grow bigger. You know what I mean?
But you don't need to spend $1 trillion more dollars than what you're even bringing in. The goal is to bring in more than you've spent. Like, they got to sit down and figure out, is it really necessary to be spending $3 trillion when we're not even making $2 trillion?
And that's the question.
Right.
Maybe it is. Maybe you have to spend that much to get a rebounding thing going on.
But when are we going to start
I
to
don't
see?
think you have to spend that much because there's there's a lot. If you go on and Google and just Google federal government waste or federal government unnecessary programs, you'll find just billions of dollars of things that we spend money on lobster and shrimp research, and look at how much these politicians in the federal government, look how much money they make, and throughout all this economic crisis in the private sector, the federal government really hasn't been touched at all.
Just look at the...
Well, yeah, because they're sitting on top. They're going to be the last ones to cut themselves. I mean, let's be honest. It comes down to a selfish notion. All these other people are in a boat and they're sinking. Are you going to be the one to jump in that raft, or are you going to stay dry as long as you can?
That's the reason they're billionaires. There is a reason.
This is true, sadly.
I mean, the private sector is paid them their money, and then the private sector struggles and they think and loses money, and they think somehow that they can't take any cuts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
The fact of the matter is everyone needs to give a little bit. If you took a little bit from everyone, then that poor person wouldn't feel like their entire world was just being grabbed from underneath them. If you took from everyone equally, everyone would kind of share that weight, and it wouldn't just be placed on one person. And I think that is where so many people and how we are as Americans is,
but is that
when you're on the poor and the middle class, you kind of feel like there's this huge weight on you, and you're working so hard, but you're not even getting in what you're working for. But then there are others that you feel, they're working hard, but they still got to go golfing 4 times a week and go on a vacation, and they get paid more, but they don't feel that weight.
Yeah, but within that, I mean, that comes down to personal what you do. I mean, if you don't like that, maybe you should get a better job. It's hard to do right now. It's hard to find a job. It's hard to be part of the whole thing. But you can make those changes within your own life.
What's interesting too is on that U.S. National Debt Clock site, you can see on the side there's a bunch of information, but it'll show you the number of people that are unemployed and things like that, and it's definitely gone up a lot. But you can look at those stats too. It's a really cool site. Like, I recommend everybody bookmark it, and I think it's important that we keep track of that so that we all know what our government is doing. But I agree. You're right. You guys are right that everybody has to make sacrifices. Everyone has to compromise, and there's a lot of problems that with our federal government being able to compromise, obviously right now. But Republicans, they don't want to give up their military. But realistically, if something's going to get done about our budget, our federal budget, then they're going to have to cut some military. And Democrats, if they want to be realistic, they're going to have to cut some federal programs. Or transfer it down to the state level. There's got to be compromise. That's the only way it's going to get done. Otherwise, this debt's just going to keep growing out of control. And if you look at the projections on the U.S. debt clock, the CBO and other people are projecting that by 2016, in just about 4 years, that the net national debt will be at $20 trillion.
Yeah.
So,
and it's really not that hard to think about.
Yeah, $20 trillion. That's the other thing. I don't think people realize just how much $1 trillion is.
That's me going to school like 400,000 times.
Yeah, it's
probably more.
It's a lot of money.
It's an insane amount of money.
I mean, you have to think the average person. I mean, will they see $1 million in their life, in their working life? Will an average person see $1 million?
No. Possibly, but
I mean,
it's
potentially.
over the course
think
of
of it like, in your entire life, you might see $1 million, and the state in 4 years is going to be $20 trillion in debt.
Yeah,
like, how many zeros come behind that?
Way too many. Way too many.
You know what I mean? You got to bring it back down.
But like John said earlier, there's a lot of things we could cut. There's a lot of things we could cut out and just do without. Joseph from Lacey writes in. He says we should get rid of the most unreal welfare scam, stop the child tax credit, and the earned income credit for taxes. Ooh, well, yeah,
Interesting point.
I could see that. Now, John, you got another one coming, so congratulations. I just want to throw that out.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's very exciting. It's very exciting.
It's very unexpected, too.
Yeah, but that's always...
Hey, well, it's money in the bank.
That's right. I'm all about my tax returns.
This is true, but,
Thank you, Federal Direct.
Yes. Federal Direct. Oh, it's a great place to have your taxes done. But aside from that, on a tax note, you've got to be kind of against that because you kind of need that money in this time of recession. Those with children do. I mean, child tax credit, earned income credit, those help out a lot.
Oh yeah, and I'm happy to take it. But at the same time,
that's okay. But
do you feel guilty, John?
No, I don't feel guilty about it. But I mean, I'd be willing to make the cuts necessary if that would help the economy. But I don't think that's the main issue that is going to help fix our budget.
And I don't think everyone have you guys ever seen
Wait a minute. You know how many kids are in this country? If you were to cut earned income credit and child tax credit, you would save billions. I would love to see the numbers on that because that is a huge outgoing costs for the
Well, sure.
government.
Let's do that. There's a bunch of things that they should do. There's a bunch of programs that they should cut. Maybe I'd be down for doing that. I mean, whatever is gonna keep things reasonable and keep our budget okay and help us to still maintain, things that we like, social programs and things that we need to maintain. Because there are things that government does need to pay for. So
this is true, but when it comes down to that, how do you say that one program's okay but another one's not? Somebody might have need for the program that you think is not as important.
Yeah, but maybe they are able to find that need within a different program if you can combine them. I mean, there's so many times that. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say before I forget. On that note, if you're in Congress, that question is answered by which lobbyist or special interest is going to give you the most money.
Yeah.
That's how you decide.
This is true. This is true.
So,
well, for those poor people like me out there, we just need some really great volunteers that can go to the Brother and Sister Club or the YWCA or the YMCA, and we just need to be able to provide and combine different things. You don't need to have a president, a CEO, yada, yada, yada. Make one person that title, because then how many millions of dollars are you saving a year instead of paying somebody in that?
That's funny.
You know what I mean?
I can see the smoke coming out of Brittany's ears.
Woo!
That's awesome.
yeah, there should be. There's a lot of problems with the federal government.
Thank you,
true.
John.
Yeah.
Brad.
And another great thing for John, too, he's, like we said, he's having his third child. He's already got a name, though, Michael Phelps Hansen. That's a great thing.
What? Oh, my gosh. She's going to be a swimmer.
That's right. One of the greatest swimmers of all time. Thanks, John, for calling.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good day.
It's our
Bye.
political correspondent, John M. Hansen. 1240 KGY.
Howdy, Huey.